Call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Appleby?
Here.
Runner?
Aye. Here.
Anderson? Kemp?
Here.
Podolsky?
Here.
Rasmussen?
Here.
All present.
Pledge of allegiance led by Nick.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Nick. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion. Mike.
Motion made and seconded. Get that?
You wanna call it the names, maybe, then that'll help, yeah. Was it Mike Kempf, second by Rasmussen?
Yes.
Okay, that'll help, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, thank you. Now approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 19th, 2015, and special council meeting September 28th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for both the regular and special council meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion by Keith, second by Shani. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Have to make a motion to open public hearing for the 216 budget.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Keith, seconded by Mike. Open the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion down to 6. Frank the boy, you have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I did give Patrick the budget from the library. We approved it, and we're at, I believe it's 0% increase from last year.
Yes, and that's been built into our budget. I
So,
worked with Christie on that, and she said if there's
Okay.
any change, she'd let me know, so.
so anyhow, it was approved and taken care of tonight. One of the things that I'm a little bit surprised, and I even asked the question today, because we get a monthly newsletter in terms of the use of the building, in terms of downstairs. We used that 66 times this last month. And I said, geez, what changed here? Normally it's in the upper 30s, lower 40s. Apparently there's more activity between Weyauwega County Social Service and it just goes further. So chances are you're gonna be approached on some of those. We don't know if it'll continue with them using the library downstairs or with the new city hall or what the deal is. Then I do have one request, if it is possible, and we talked to the librarian about this. If and when you send out another newsletter or anything, can you just mention the phone number for the library? Because we changed over and Patrick and Christy talked about it. We made the change, and as a result, we got dropped out of the phone book. And we get quite a few calls for city phone number and what have you, but right now, unless somebody knows where to call or has the number, there's no way to get it because it's not in the book. So if there's a possibility somehow to include that with some
Yeah,
mailing that
we
goes
can every
out.
month with the water bill, for sure.
That
And
would
what
be
he's talking about
fantastic.
is, when we switch from CenturyLink to Charter phone, the phone book is a CenturyLink book that
Yep.
comes out. And so we moved most of our city hall stuff, and I don't believe the city hall general number pops into that either. It's just customers only for CenturyLink that pop in that phone book. I think we've got our water alarms still with CenturyLink, so those numbers pop in, but they don't ring anywhere though. So, yeah, but yeah, we could do that in the monthly.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you have any other questions,
Aye.
feel free to fire away. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
You got Elvis,
Thank you.
Elvis over there right now, right?
Pardon?
You got Elvis over there right now.
Yes. Mhm.
Then he changes to Dean Martin after a while, right?
I have no idea.
That's what he's gonna do both of
So-
them, so.
Next will be Mr. Bayman, you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Mark Bayman. I'm from Fire and Ice. Every year we come and ask you guys for a contribution towards our fundraising program for the area youth groups that are involved in Fire and Ice. Over the last 8 years, we have profited $75,000 and given out to all these different organizations. It's been a great thing for these youth groups. Anybody is allowed to work and create money for their groups. It's just a matter of putting their hours towards a group. And it's because of you guys helping us with donations like this to get us the opportunity to get these groups that can't necessarily make their own money by themselves a decent chunk of money for their groups. So I'm here again, once again, asking for you guys' help and support again. Last year you guys donated $700 to us, which is a great thing. We really appreciate it. So asking for that again, if you guys would be interested in doing that, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions for him? We'll take it up, Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7, committee reports. Finance.
All right.
Keith.
Make a motion to approve contract C15 change order number 2 for $7,218.95.
Second.
Motion by Keith, second by Mike. Anybody got any questions?
Just a quick comment, there's a summary sheet in there, but it's on the City Hall project, but it's related to storm sewer out on East Alfred Street. There was some extra storm sewer pipe that was required in the roadway. And so because it's in the contract, this ties back to the parking lot ties into the building because all the downspouts will drain not on the parking lot but into the storm sewer. So the change order here is for the additional pipe that was required out on East Alfred Street.
Apparently the distance from where it had to go point A to point B was different than what it is on the city map. So when they dug it up, all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute here, the pipe ain't there anymore, so it never was there.
Yep.
That's where that came in. Motion been made and seconded, all, want roll call, no?
You don't need it on that, no.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next I'll make a motion to approve the C15 pay request number 4 for $325,953.74.
Second.
Motion by Keith, second by Mike. Anybody got any questions on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3.
All right, next I'll make a motion for Cedar Corp interior design service proposal for the municipal building not to exceed $4,500. And it's basically making sure that all the colors match carpets and flooring and all that good stuff.
And,
I'll second it.
I was waiting for Mike
Motion
too, because he's the one that
keeps-
wanted that $4,500 in there.
Any question
and
on
was
that,
that,
Bruce?
was that, part of the budget already, right? I mean, part of their cost to begin with, this isn't an
No.
additional?
No, this is additional.
Yep.
What this is they're gonna get a
Yeah, I
interior
understand
design.
it all, yeah, I
Okay.
understand all
It
that.
basically makes it so that way somebody in this room doesn't have to sit there and pick
Right.
every little individual item and color and things like that, so.
I did ask that question though too.
I just wondered why they knew they'd do this later, why all of a sudden they thought of it or brought it to the table. Their experience, you know, from the beginning, I thought that was would have been part of
The
their
way it's
cost.
written in the contract and the way it was bid out was for certain types of coatings, paints, surfaces to be used. But then there's all the different color choices and things like that within that has to be made.
So the materials are covered.
Yeah.
It's just the,
Right.
Expertise to tell you
Specifications for
which
the
color to
products were
pick
there,
out.
But not the,
Oh, I understand all that. I do
Design.
that all myself on homes I build. I do the whole thing, but regardless, I'm just kind
Are
of
you offering your
surprised.
services?
You pick it or do your
I do
clients
for
pick
nothing.
it?
You'd be happier? No. Anyway, no, that ain't the point. I just thought that,
yeah.
I'm just kind of surprised that that had to be an additional thing. And with all of Thad's experience in their group, but I understand. Just kind of a surprise seeing that.
any other comment?
Maybe nobody else was surprised. They just took that as an additional.
No, Thad explained that the paint and those materials
Mhm.
that Keith said were picked out and,
They're all spec'd out, but you still have to pick the pretty stuff. And we figured none of us were qualified to do it, so.
No, and that ain't the point. I'm just surprised that they didn't bring that up front, because they know they're gonna do it, because they've done it for years with everything else, so I was kind of surprised, that's all.
Any other comments? Take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next I'll make a motion to approve payment of $350 for their fence expense reimbursement at 115 West Birdsall Street.
Second.
Motion Keith, second Mike. Anybody got questions on that one? Everybody understand what happened there?
Kinda, but explain it again as far as, did the inspector make a mistake?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And he, because of course, that guy's my neighbor, and all of a sudden there's a fence right next to the street within a few feet. And he didn't, so he made that mistake and said, go at
The
it.
inspector gave him a permit without, I believe, checking it out.
Just missed that.
Yeah, there's two things. One is
That and the 3
on a,
foot.
In the
on a
right of way.
corner lot, when they went into the front yard, and we're all readily aware of the secondary front yard on a corner lot now.
Right.
Yes.
They were building the fence into that yard on a corner lot. On their permit, they had put that they would be in their yard, but they put that they were going to build a 6-foot high fence. And in the secondary front yard, it could only be 3 feet high.
Right.
But the permit said 6 feet, it was signed by the building inspector. When they put in the posts, they put the posts into the right of way. And so I believe it was the mayor that had recognized that, notified them, and we had notified them that they can't have those posts in the right of way, and that's when they said, well, we're looking to build a 6-foot high fence, and then I believe the building inspector picked up on it and said, well, you can't have a 6-foot high fence in your front yard. So what these people did then is they pulled the posts, rather than put a shorter fence, they backed it up to keep it into their side or backyard. But what they're asking for is reimbursement on the posts and the concrete, and I think the rental expense on some of the equipment that they use to pull posts. And then the other thing that I added at the committee was that the homeowner wasn't able to pull out some of these posts that were cemented in. And so the city went over with a tractor and we helped them pull them out. One of the conditions that wasn't in the motion, but that we talked about, was that with an approval on this payment, the understanding would be that we would then get the posts. So essentially, the homeowner doesn't have any use for them because they shortened their fence up, they built it. We now have the posts and we have a use for them in the park. So that's unrelated a little bit, but the recommendation was to approve the payment of $350 to them.
Any questions?
You spoke to the building inspector about this and
Yeah,
expressed your dismay.
we have a couple other things that we're going to be
Say that was the focus
talking
of the
about with that,
conversation.
so.
All right.
To say the
Yeah.
least.
All right, we call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5.
All right, next then make a motion to approve checks 31809 through 31878 totaling $747,963.30 and the monthly financial statement.
I'll second.
Motion Keith, second Scott. Anybody got questions? This one will take a roll call.
Brenner,
Aye.
Gunderson,
Aye.
Appleby,
Aye.
Nadowski,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All ayes.
Thank you. Move on to B, Public Works. Bruce.
I get back to the beginning here. I would like to make a motion for the approval of contract A15, change order number 1 for $10,214.51.
I'll second.
You got, what is that? Can you explain that?
Yep, I can real quick. On page number, there's one item, you have the cover sheet in your packet. The net amount is $10,214.51, and I will tell you that it's been approved already, but it's awaiting your blessing to be included with the pay request. Now, it's approved because after we awarded these contracts, we came back and we wanted to know work change directives, field orders, how did you want to handle these things that pop up that can keep the project moving? And you identified roughly a $10,000 amount that, as long as it ran through me, I vetted it, I could approve it, and then come and report back to you guys afterwards. Now, there's 4 items. Number 1 and number 2 relate to Structure 95, and Structure 95 is our garage at the treatment plant. Because we're digging on a treatment plant that we designed, and because we're holding on to our garage now, longer than we had anticipated in the beginning, the project was designed to cut utilities basically through the driveway that we have to the garage, and also to cut new buildings through the existing utilities we had at the garage, so it goes both ways. Number 1, it's a credit of $1,500 because we're relocating the sewer service at the garage. Number 2 is an increase of $1,585.45, and it's to relocate the gas line to the garage because we had to cut it to be able to put our piping in, and then now we've got to reconnect it. Number 3 is to install a 6-inch future raw activated sludge line. That amount is for $13,089.75. That's an item that the subcontractor had proposed for us to do today if we plan on expanding the plant in the future. And the reason why they had proposed doing it now is because it sits in between about 5 lines of utilities and piping, and it sits next to the foundation of one of our buildings. And if they had to dig this up later, as opposed to putting it in now when there's an open trench, the $13,000 would be closer to $60,000. And so for $13,000, we did elect to get this installed ahead of time. And to add on that, it's because we have the assumption that later next year, we're probably going to be at capacity with this plant and looking to do some things. So this is already going to be in there. Number 4 then is a substitute. We had a material to put under structure number 12 and 65. And of course now, because we're on film, I forget to explain to you guys which those 2 are. There's about 12 buildings that we number. But essentially what we did is we put clear stone underneath the structure rather than it was like a comparable fill. And we have a credit of $4,651.60. And then there is a underground storage tank footing modification for a storage tank that we are installing as part of the septage receiving. So we're going to upgrade that when the septic haulers deposit into the plant. One of the footings had to be upgraded, and that's an additional cost of $1,690.91. So the net of that, or those 5 things, is $10,214.58.
Okay, anybody else got a question? We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Pat.
Number 2, I'd also like to recommend, make a motion, approval of pay request number 5 for contract A15 to Myron for $493,278.41, contingent on receipt of partial lien waivers.
I'll second.
Anybody got a question?
No, just a quick comment again. So this contingency for the partial lien waivers, just as a reminder, that's a document that we received from Myron that tells us that they paid their subcontractors. And so they have them, we just need the official copies in hand. And we haven't had a problem getting them right after you approve the pay request, so it's not an issue, it's just in case we wouldn't get them, we have the leverage to hold that payment to be able to get them.
Anybody else got a question?
Have we done that with the lien waivers on 1 through 4 as well?
Do
you recall?
We did it for one of them, I know.
2 and 4, or 3 and 4, I think we did it twice. Yep.
I think we'll hold that pattern going forward as well. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, if we have them in hand, then we wouldn't need to do that, but
Anybody else? We'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Number 3, I'd also like to make a motion approval of final invoice for East Alfred Street paving, Weyauwega County Highway, $22,608.71.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Got it? Pretty self-explanatory. Anybody got any questions? Call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And lastly, number 4, recommend, make a motion approval of John Deere model number 1025R lease for this winter.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. To approve the lease for the John Deere, I think we all know what that's, a small one, right?
Yep, it's the one with the broom and the blower.
Yep, so
And
the
again-
winter's coming, we need it.
And if at the end of the winter, we determine that we'd like to keep it, I mean, because it's working out very well,
Yeah.
we would get a credit towards the sales price, and I believe the credit is 100% of what we pay. That's $3,400
Deal, yeah.
for 4-month lease, but it works better than we thought, so it's worth it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Police and fire, Mike.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2016 Dodge Charger for the police department not to exceed $38,750.83.
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded. Nick and Mike. Buy a new squad car. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay,
Excuse me, are we getting rid of a vehicle, or will we keep one for municipal use
we haven't discussed that yet.
Okay.
Get the new one first.
Next, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Narcan policy contingent the approval by the city attorney.
Yes, Mike, we had, I'm gonna refer to Patrick on this, he had some discussion with, not Attorney County.
Yeah. We have, working with Davis and Cuthall, we have their broad staff and experience. They have an attorney whose name is Tony Weyauwega, and I'm familiar with him because he was the city attorney in Green Bay, basically the same amount of time I was on the county board of Brown County. He wrote the Narcan policy for the Green Bay Police Department, so he's well versed in this. He looked at the policy and said that it would be preferred that the committee and the council has a good discussion on the liability you take on when you look to do this. And some of the reasons that the police department's looking to do this, not to speak for Jerry, but, you know, if there's a wait time for somebody to get to a situation where there's an overdose, or if you know, time and minutes and seconds matter in these types of situations, and the idea of having Narcan is that the first responder is probably gonna be our officer. They'd be able to have the Narcan. That's the benefit. The benefit is we can get there quicker. The potential downside is that we also take on a great deal of liability when we do that. So what Attorney Weyauwega is suggesting is that we have a very good discussion on the benefits and the potential liability, and then make sure that we have a policy that has our liability is, you know, not reduced, but at least we're protected. So that when we send our officers out to do a good thing, that doesn't turn around and become a very bad thing for us in case it doesn't go well. So the suggestion is to hold this for further review.
Okay.
The Good Samaritan law does not come into play here at all with intent?
Not in 2015,
No?
no. If you show up on a scene and do CPR, you're gonna get sued sooner or later. It's just the way society is. This one here, I think if we can tweak it, where the city attorney is okay with it, covering our liabilities, and get the policy written very specifically so they're comfortable with it, we'll move forward, but I think we'll go back to committee and articulate the reasons why we're doing it more clearly.
Does it affect the insurance at all? The city insurance? When you have a policy like this?
I mean, I think everything probably does, everything we do does, but I don't know that it's a whole lot different than all the other tools that the police have to carry out their duties.
That'd be my question though, because of the fact that they're worried about the liability of it,
Right.
it's just what it does to the
We use a
cost of
defibrillator.
premiums and whatnot.
Right.
It's, you're trying to render first aid in a good Samaritan type of way, but with this one being what it is, best to err on the side of caution.
And you could not be approved to do this license, and you could be a liability right there. Well, you should have known. I mean, that's
Well,
all things
that's-
go, like, oh, neglect, you should have, you know what I mean? Things can go that way too, can't they?
Yeah, they could. What I've learned is, everybody who's in the Narcan community, if I walked over and gave you a milliliter of Narcan, you might get a little flushed, your heartbeat might pick up a little bit, and that's it. The liabilities come with children, if they've ingested drugs, or if they didn't and they have some other medical condition, or if you give Narcan to somebody who didn't take any drugs and they say, hey, what did you give me that Narcan for?
Mm.
So that's for the attorney to clean up, and then we can readdress it and move forward.
So your suggestion is to table this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion then. And I'll ask that we table it and take it back to the committee.
You can take a motion on that, referring it back to committee if you'd like.
Okay,
That at least sets the trail then, so we can have a trail on this.
I'll make a motion, then we take it back to committee, police, fire, and ambulance committee.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded to take this issue back to committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Public health, Shady.
I would like to make a motion to approve the revisions to the animal pit bull ordinance, which includes requirements of $50,000 liability insurance coverage as a condition for owning a pit bull dog in the city of Weyauwega, ordinance 2015-6.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. You get it? Any discussion on this?
My only thought was, someone moves into town, say they're renting, does the landlord, should they make that known that, you know, that there's that requirement? You know, somebody
Yeah.
might just move into town, they don't know about it, they just, and then all of
I
a
guess
sudden
that's
you were
my
liable.
question is how are we gonna know?
So if that would happen though, the current ordinance doesn't allow them to have a pit bull at all. You can't have a pit bull in town. So this modification, and the ordinance committee worked on this for a year, going back and forth with some different drafts. I think the compromise that was made between not having pit bulls at all and allowing them is that it's held up in court in other communities that you can require for certain breeds of dog a proof of a certain level of liability insurance. Because really what you're trying to legislate here is you're trying to, you know, allow people to have the dogs they want, but in case they turn vicious or something happens, to make sure that other people are protected too. And basically, you know, I wasn't here when the city passed the current ordinance, but my general thought on reading it is that the intent was we would never have a legal pit bull bite somebody because they were never legal to be here in the first place. And so attempting to legislate it that way by saying you can't even have the dog means that it's probably fairly likely that you won't have a pit bull that bites. Now the problem is people don't license them, they have them anyway. This way, this is sort of a path to being legal to have these pit bulls. And the other thing that came up, and maybe Shani can comment a little bit too, is that there was some research done on what does that insurance entail, what might it cost, who offers it. And the thought is there's some companies that offer it for nothing, there's some that will charge you, and there's some that don't want anything to do with it for pit bulls.
Yeah, so I did my research, and Nick also talked with insurance agents. There were a few that will accept pit bulls, and there are some insurances that won't, but there is insurance out there to cover pit bulls or any dog that bites. The reasoning behind the insurance is one strike, the dog's gone. So if it bites, it won't be allowed because the insurance will be dropped. And we thought that was a good compromise, and it would show good responsibility on the homeowner's part too by having insurance, because it shows that it cares. So you're 100% responsible for your children, you might as well be 100% responsible for your animals too.
Makes sense. Anybody got any questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's an ordinance, so you want a roll call vote.
No, roll call.
It's ordinance, what, 2015 dash?
6.
Yeah.
Okay. Roll
Yep.
call.
Appleby,
Aye.
Runner,
Aye.
Kemp,
Nay.
Gunderson,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Nadowski.
Aye.
Motion
5
carried.
ayes, 1 nay.
Thank you. Rec committee, Nick,
We have nothing for council tonight.
public property, Scott,
Nothing for council at this time, thank you.
and planning commission has nothing. New business, approve operator's license. You wanted us to do this in two groups, two different places? Or all at once, or all you want?
You could do one that's on the agenda, there's a Brian Jens, and they didn't get the application in with enough time for us to have the review done on it, so we'd ask that we hold that one.
Yeah,
And then the rest of them, you can then vote on. And you could do it all at once, if you'd like.
okay. Approve the following operator's license for all of the below, mostly for the new gas station out there. Anybody got any questions on any of them?
I need to remove myself. Unfortunately, I have a family member who is a part of this list.
Okay.
I do with these, Joshua, I'm not gonna pronounce his last name. Anyway,
Jet ski, probably.
whatever that is. I have an issue with him being charged with providing alcohol just a month ago. I think to put somebody like that out in the gas station when you're out on the highway, that gives me concern.
You could split, I mean, you could split if you'd like to split one of them out and vote on the remainder, you can do that too.
Okay. Other than that, it's all been checked out, Jerry? Yeah.
Yep.
You wish to do that?
Wait,
I mean, we'll take a vote on all except that one name that he just said, Majeski, Joshua
And-
Majeski,
Brian Jens.
and Brian Jens, who is out.
So in this one, we just need a motion, basically of the list provided in the agenda. We'll be holding Josh M. and Brian Jens for later discussions.
You talk about your name. is so weird.
You can't even say it?
I think that's almost the same as your last name.
Yeah, there's a J in it too, and I got a J in mine.
Yeah?
Is that,
Yeah.
is that whole group?
You hear when
otherwise
people try to
gonna be
say it,
for
it's a
the
butcher
central
job.
station?
I know there's brew house.
Right, I know that the top four, or three are for the brew house.
Yeah, that
Are
whole
the rest of them then for
line
the
2 and 3 are
travel,
all for the travel plaza,
travel plaza?
Look at all their,
which is
Oh,
hoping
yes,
to
I hear.
open by mid-December.
Okay,
wow.
So is that clear enough then, the way I stated that?
Yeah.
Okay.
we got a second
I'll
on
second it.
Nick second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All those that carry. No, obviously, there's Ryan Jens, we can't, because he doesn't have his paperwork in. I'll entertain a motion to vote on Joshua Majeski.
Well, I'll make a motion so we can go talk about it.
Okay, motion made
I'll second that.
and seconded.
What is the motion?
I'm
To,
going to decline it.
So your
If I
motion
may-
is not to approve?
Yes.
I
Motion made,
second.
seconded, yep,
So now we can talk about it.
all right.
Who did the second?
Bruce.
Bruce.
Bruce,
Yeah, 'cause you
anybody got
mentioned,
anything else to say? Nick, explain what his problem is, was it?
Well, from what I understand, it could be something minor, but I would think it'd be fair to maybe have this person present to the council if they really want this license. And explain to us the situation and I guess what's different.
Who approved it?
Jerry.
I guess where did he do that?
It's Weyauwega.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, you know,
And it might be something minor, but I think it'd be good to have him face to face with us. If there's
Reapply
concerns
it
about it.
himself?
he was, we can't have any more detail right now from your perspective?
Well, you just look at it, I mean,
It was a month.
if he was sitting in a bar,
Yeah.
you would have people in there and you'd be under surveillance. You'd have that bar owner. Now he's gonna be giving out packaged alcohol right off the highway, which makes it very easy for any friend to stop in. There's less supervision. So,
Jerry, can you
I mean,
explain
there's cameras.
why you
right?
would,
well, there's
why you
cameras, but
approved
there's
them?
cameras
Who knows?
everywhere and that doesn't.
Yeah.
I wanna hear the chief's
Okay, so here's-
reasoning behind it.
Here's what our ordinance says, and I know I'm not the chief, but I'll.
Go ahead, you're reading it.
So, we've got, it's under sub 4, an application may be denied based upon the applicant's arrest and conviction record if the applicant has been convicted of a felony, or if the applicant has been habitually a law offender. For the purposes of licensing, habitually been a law offender is generally considered to be an arrest or conviction of at least 2 offenses which are substantially related to the licensed activity. So it doesn't say.
Now, that's as vague as you can get with all the underlying things. I completely get what you get, or what you're saying, Nick. No doubt in my mind that's a possibility. We've seen that right over here with extracurricular commerce activity.
Yep.
It was an ordinance violation. My position wasn't, it was just that. It was an ordinance violation. I didn't look into where, when, or how it happened. I didn't know how it happened to Weyauwega. For this discussion to happen, he may maintain a position otherwise, where he might come in and say, hey, I haven't been found guilty yet, or you don't know the rest of the story. Well, all I do is look at what it's on paper and does it fit what the ordinance says.
Well, you know, that's okay, but then our ordinance should change in some respect, because then there's no sense in these licenses coming to us.
It says
If
2
you're-
offenses though.
This is may be denied.
May.
May.
They also may be approved too.
Right.
One of the difficulties we had in 2 years ago is, do you give somebody who has an OWI operation license to 10 bar? How about if they had 2? You know, and I'm not arguing, I'm just
Right.
saying that
Right.
maybe we need to tighten it up a little bit and
We
have
definitely
more
do,
scope
because
for-
if you said, I can't in good conscience give a license to somebody that just a month ago was providing alcohol to a minor,
Understood.
especially when you're sitting out on the highway. To me, that's just a recipe for disaster.
But he has to have been arrested or a felony or convicted before you can
I believe
deny.
it says convicted.
Habitual criminality or convicted of a felony.
So even though we know something and the potential, we don't have the grounds to deny, or?
Well, I mean, the other thing is, because it's for this same facility,
Mm-hmm.
and because you already have one that you're holding,
We just
I mean,
hold
if you wanna hold it for clarification on that, we can come back with refining the legal authority that you have in this situation. Refining the understanding, I guess I should say, of the legal authority, not, yeah, you know what I mean?
Guess that was kind of my intent when I made my motion, was to hold those 2 for further discussion at a later time.
Okay, you wanna hold them both at a different meeting?
Well, that's what I was thinking, but
Oh,
that's what I meant by my motion with holding those 2, because I figured there was gonna be a lot more further discussion on, well, the one didn't get it in time, and on this one, the Joshua in question.
You can always invite him in and tell him, why should we give you that permit?
I mean, that's
And
kind of
let
the
me
way I was
explain it to
thinking. It might be something real innocent, but we don't know. So, if he wants that position,
This one's charged with that, right?
I have to look
It
back.
hasn't been,
I can check real quick.
Says, have you ever been arrested, convicted, or currently charged with any of the following? And he said, yes. To illegal purchase, sale, or providing. And then down below, in the explanation, he said providing. So,
That's pretty straightforward.
I mean, if you deny these, they have the ability to appeal them too,
Mhm.
so if you're going to end up having to have that discussion on this.
Okay.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Was there a second?
Yeah.
for a second.
For a second,
And that's to deny his
deny.
application. We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You'll hear from him later.
So, you'll hear from them later. You didn't
Well, the
vote
other
on
one's gotta come in yet, and if he wants to reapply,
So he would have to apply for appeal to
yeah.
Okay.
the denial, right?
Yeah.
That Joshua would.
There's just
Well,
the
based
one
on that
guy
vote,
left.
he would,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, just that one.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
that's fine.
and
Okay.
the other
I'm
one,
okay
we're
with
waiting
that.
for paperwork.
I was just gonna, okay, but.
Yeah. Okay?
we have to
And, and just to be clear, we do have paperwork on Mr. Jens, but we didn't get it with enough time for the chief
Right.
to have the review. Yeah,
Right.
so we do have the paperwork. yeah.
Okay.
Well, but really, we don't have the paperwork.
We don't have it, they
You
don't.
don't, right,
Right.
right,
We
Right.
don't have it.
correct.
All right, move on to the mayor's report.
No, you have the,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the parade permit.
Second,
Oh, paper, I didn't see
Third.
that, I'm sorry. Didn't read all the way about it, looking at all the names. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've got a parade permit, thank you. All right, now the mayor's report. Basically, what I got is, Tuesday, the county board approved that budget, and basically it was 1.27% raise in your taxes. And as a side note, they said that amounts to $16 to a $100,000 home. And then again, if you think about it, last month, or 2 months ago, they voted down the wheel tax, which was gonna be $25 a year, so what happened, the highway fund was going down, so they raised taxes enough to get $500,000 into the road fund. And basically, you're not paying the road, this wheel tax, but you're paying an extra $16. And I don't doubt that as time goes, that wheel tax is gonna come up again. Probably quicker than what we even figured, because the state and the federal have cut back on all the road fundings. So the counties don't get much anymore, and everybody knows what the roads in the county look like. A lot of them need some pretty serious repair. So, another thing that was quite interesting, kind of disturbed me a little bit, is if any of you read that or heard about it. Lakeview Manor is under fire again by a few people. I just want you all to take notice of how well that place is operated, what a wonderful place it really is, and how many people from our area work out there. I'm not sure of the number, but I know at one time it was 60 people. Well, obviously they're not all from down here, but all from the area. And it's tax dollars being spent here. It's a beautiful facility, and anybody that's there as a resident, they're happy with the place. There's a good argument when they say that the funding it, but our chairman on that committee, Dave Newman, gave a pretty good explanation on why we should keep it. He took apart the budget on what we spend on recreation, parks, boating, land and water. That's all people can enjoy themselves, the general public. We spend millions. And it's a good thing, nobody's complaining about it. But here we're spending money to keep our senior citizens happy and healthy. That's not fair to say, we can't spend that money there, that's a waste of money. So it's a pretty good explanation, and I'm sure that'll come up again too. Lakeview Manor does run quite well, and it's got a little over $1 million in a savings account for projects or building and equipment and all of that, so just keep that in the back of your head. If you hear somebody downgrading or bad mouthing the place, kind of stick up for them. Other than that, I'm going to go to the administrator's report.
Thank you. I'm going to speak quite a bit when it gets to the budget review. Obviously, that's been a pretty time-consuming item. Obviously, I keep also updating you on the construction projects that are going on. City Hall, just real briefly, they're hoping by the end of next week to have that shell enclosed. So they got the front wall up, I believe week and a half ago, working on the back wall. By the end of this week, they're gonna have the deck for the second floor, and then by the end of next week, they're hoping to get everything enclosed, so that's going well. At the treatment plant, things are also going well. They're starting to construct the buildings. They've installed a lot of the decorative block on the outside of the building, so it's starting to take shape there too. We're hoping to get the road back in place within, I believe, 3 weeks, so that we can get in and out for our salt, get our tractors in and out of the garage. So that's moving along, and obviously the weather has been fairly agreeable to get things done too, so both projects are slated to be on schedule right now. Other than that, just a lot of the same. Financial software conversion is in the works, hoping to have that up and running by January. We did get some assistance from our current provider, so that we don't have to go recreate our whole year in the new system, so that will help. And just a quick note, we've been in this building, it's been working pretty good, but we did have our second sewer backup last week in a month. There's some things that we need to tweak downstairs, I believe. The sewer runs in very creative directions, so other than that, things are going pretty good. Busy, but it's more of the same.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Chief?
Much of the same, things are going well. The call volume's down a little bit because of the colder weather moving in. I'm sure traffic accidents will start on the increase, and I'd like to thank Bob Cloud for writing a nice article about Adam and the hard work that he's doing. It was well received. I read some of the comments on it, and it seems to me that that type of enforcement is accepted, and it looks like people are making comments like you did, Bruce, when you arrest people for drugs. How come they don't go to jail and stay in jail? And I think that's, a lot of people feel that way. And we're working on the Narcan policy.
There's another article in the paper about, my daughter told me something about you found like syringes, or what was that?
That was in that article.
That was the same.
An arrest right out in front here where
Right out the window.
Had been shooting up cocaine, and they went and responded to her, and she had hundreds of needles full of blood. So I had to try and figure out a creative way to get rid of that. But that's on the front page of the. Do they print posts still? I guess I never really know. Do they?
Yep, it's over there.
An online one is the one I saw. So I haven't seen it in a while.
Front page is missing.
Oh,
Oh, somebody cut it out.
Well, I thought it was great that my daughter was plugged in and
Yeah.
and brought that home before I, really knew anything about it. That
Well,
so I was happy to hear her be.
the seniors who are
concerned.
moving on have a Focus on Your Future Day, and they did that on Friday. And I got to speak to a number of the seniors, there's probably 75 of them in there,
Oh, that's
50 to
where-
75. And I did, as I usually do, I asked them, how many of you know people who are using prescription or heroin? And the vast majority of them raised their hand.
Really?
So it's, and I'm not saying that it's happening in the building, but they know somebody or have a relative that's using it, and so we're cracking down on it.
Thanks, Chief. And make a motion to close the public hearing for the 216 budget.
So move.
Second.
Mike and Bruce, a motion to close public hearing for the 216 budget. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
we'll still be open for a little bit yet, but feel free though.
I thought you were closing right now.
We're closing the hearing, and then we'll go through the budget
Okay.
here, so. But-
You're up already,
But
it's your
feel free
choice.
though. Okay.
Do you need me for
Thanks, Mark.
anything in
Hey,
terms
Mark.
of?
No,
Thank you,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
That was approved the way it was approved, it's good.
Okay. Give me a second.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Night.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
turn this so that when I talk a lot, it picks up all of it.
You wanna put it right next to you?
No, I'm good, thank you.
This'll be
This thing-
quick,
Talk a
right?
little louder.
This ain't gonna be one of them
This'll
quick.
be-
This'll be real quick.
Yeah,
Super
real
quick, I think. is
That's
how we
code
put it.
word for
Oh,
minimum 30.
hope you brought a pillow.
Okay, so, what I will do is just run through the budget again. I believe this is gonna be the third crack through it, and I believe 3 years ago, I had mentioned to you all that by the time we get here tonight, you will have heard probably everything that's in here with wages, changes, at least twice, maybe 3 times, and that's the response of, I think before I came on, there was a question of whether or not an item had been discussed in a prior year budget, and so please, if there's something that pops up in here that's brand new to you, let me know. But, you know, I think we've been through it quite a bit. All the committee recommendations, I'll just read them off. Essentially, they all recommended approval. The Recreation Committee recommended to approve the recreation budget. Police, Fire, and Ambulance made a recommendation to approve the police and public safety budget with a 2% wage increase for police staff. We will talk about that in closed session and then come back out in closed session to make the final vote on health insurance and wages. But in general, this budget is put together with that recommendation. Public Works, approve the Public Works general budget with a 0 increase on the base pay rate for 2016. And what that means is we have the Public Works utility scale. The base rate is $17.51. Employees have the ability to get a raise as they increase their DNR certifications. The DNR had consolidated their wastewater license number from 5 down to 3 this year. And right before that consolidation, I think all 3 of our existing staff had filed an experience form, which is how you are graded by the DNR. And they, I believe all 3 of them had gotten a raise like June, July. And so no raise on the base increase doesn't mean that, or on the base rate, it doesn't mean that they haven't had a raise. It just means that the base rate is going to stay at $17.51 for 2016. And our employees right now are in the $19 to $20, $18 to $20 range. And again, it's based on water, wastewater, you get different incremental increases. And then for finance, they just made a general, approve the general fund budget. They did not put a percentage on that because they met before police. So they didn't want to make a recommendation out of order with police, but the general understanding there was that it was also 2%. Other than the public works staff, we're looking at 2%. When we get to the budget, I won't go through everything, but I'm gonna run maybe through this packet here. So everybody's got a packet in front of them. That'll help as we just run through it real quick. Pages aren't numbered, so I apologize on that. I will number them when the final budget is approved and that comes out to you. We have the table of contents. Looking at the executive summary, this is basically my brief explanation, super quick explanation for each category. And I will allow you to take that home at your own leisure if you'd like to read that, but I will probably touch on it again as we go through the expenses. The item I'd like you to look at is the sideways item. That will show you the assessed value of property in the city, equalized value of property. And then it also looks at the amount that we would levy in taxes and what a proposed tax rate is. And there is a proposal that utilizes the full amount that the state will let us tax next year. And that is the $754,626. The budget before you includes that number because the state sets a limit on your, it's a levy limit worksheet essentially. And what it does is it allows you to increase your levy from last year based on an amount of new construction in the city. And also, we have the, I guess, good fortune of closing TIF District number 3. And so when you close that out, all the other jurisdictions now get their share now. And then we get our share that we can tax as part of the general tax levy. So that's part of why last year we levied $745,442 in general tax. and we have about a $10,000 raise this next year. Again, it's not anything outside of what the state allows us to do based on specific formulas. That being said, what the state gives you is a levy limit. You can back off of that if you'd like. And last year, we talked about the tax rate, and in an effort to keep the tax rate the same for the 4th straight year, we cut $4,700, and the $4,700 came out of a contingency line item that we have. The 3 options that you have here are based on the fact that we have kept the tax rate the same. And the mayor just talked about, the county raised their 16 cents. I've got information on the county, the tech schools, the schools. They raise, they lower. I can make a statement that none of them have kept their mill rate the same like we have the last 4 years. No, I'm not saying, it's probably close on a couple of them, but for sure we haven't. We've actually gone out of our way to keep it the same for 4 years. The reason why we stress that and the reason why you have options is because if we use the amount the state lets us limit or levy, it results in a tax rate of $8.21. That would be an increase of 5 cents. And on a $100,000 home, that would be a $5 increase for next year. One of the things to be aware of, and we talked about this with the City Hall project, was we could not raise taxes for City Hall. But what we can do is work within the levy limits that the state gives us. And so for City Hall, we have to use what we have to pay for that. And the bulk of that payment starts in 2017. So we're not paying, until you take out your permanent financing, we're looking at 2017. That being said, you have 3 options. One of them, which is out of order a bit, but it's option B, is you tax the amount that the state lets you levy for next year. That would result in a tax rate of $8.21. Option A then, if you would want to maintain the tax rate at $8.16, would mean that we would have to cut that amount we levy by $4,500. So cutting $4,500 would get you down to $8.16. And when we get to the expenses, there's a portion where I highlight if you'd like to do that. There's an ability to do that out of a certain line item. We'll get to that later. And then option C then is to use your allowable levy increase, which is the $754,626. And the state also allows you to reach back 1 year for the amount that you do not levy. So last year we did not levy $4,700 to keep the tax rate the same. We would be allowed to reach back a year and do that. There's also another ability that's come about where you can look back 5 years and then take an average of that. That's not an option to discuss right now. It's an option we have. It would result in a $900 increase, but for right now, I would say purposes of this discussion, what we're going to be looking at is option A. We cut $4,500 out of the budget to keep the tax rate the same. You can do it. Whether you want to do it is what the discussion will be for you. Option B is what's in the budget. That's to levy what we can. And then the tax rate will be $8.21. Option C is levy what we can, take back the $4,700 from last year. That results in a tax rate of $8.26. That would be a 10-cent increase from last year. And again, the formula for the tax rate is based on the value of the community. We have had some appeals to some major properties in town that have lowered their values by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then in general, it looks like our assessed and equalized values are dropping. And so when our tax levy, even if it would stay the same, so if we levied the same amount of money that we did last year, but our value goes down, tax rate goes up. One of the other items to mention is that when we look at this budget, we're cutting expenses for next year. So we're cutting it by $20,000, and it's because our revenue is going down by $20,000 in general. So that's another thing to make sure that we have out there is we're spending less next year than we spent this year. We'll come back on these options. Is there any question on that? for right now. We'll come back on it, because the resolution that you have to pass with the budget is going to be geared on how much you're levying. Okay? The next page then would be the proposed budget summary. This is the amount that we have to publish this in the newspaper, and let them know when we will have the budget hearing and when there will be a vote, tonight, 6:30. You do have a little yellow note down there. We had amended this, as we've received information from Gold Cross, some of the other, I don't wanna call them stakeholders, but some of the other costs that we have, once we got better info on the revenues and the costs, we did amend this. So this is the summary that matches up with the budget that's in front of you. Next item then is gonna be the revenues, and what I will talk about on this is the maybe infamous or famous pie chart that I put in the budget now every year. And it throws out a hypothetical, and it would say for every $100 of city revenue, each of these sections then tells you how much of that $100. So our general property taxes, mobile home tax, our general tax, the tax levy, makes up $46.49. Our intergovernmental or shared aid is $41.64, so you can see that right there, that's the massive bulk of our budget. Charges for services, $7.93. Regulation and compliance, which is licensing, those types of things, $2.47. Other general revenue, $1.21. Special assessments, 15 cents. And then commercial revenue, which is our interest on investments, 11 cents. Again, taxes and our shared aid from other governments, the bulk of our revenue. The next 2 pages then you'll see are green highlighted. We do have an orange highlight, that's the tax levy number. The reason that one's orange is because it corresponds with the orange on the expenses, which we'll come back to. In general, our shared revenue is actually sort of staying stable this year, which is a good thing. Big thing there is our road aid. By law, the state can drop that 10%, no more than 10%, and usually they have. This year, it's coming down quite a bit. The recycling aid that we get is usually $3,800. In the state budget, they did something a little odd, and because the state passes a 2-year budget, this first year, the revenue from recycling grants is down. So they're cutting our aid amount, and then in year number 2, they're returning it back up to, I think it goes from $3,800 down to $3,000 and then back up to $3,800, so it's kind of a quirky thing. And then when it comes down to licenses, basically what we've done is we've built in an increase for the addition of the travel plaza, liquor licenses, cigarette operators. Because there's a new business, there's going to be more of those. It's a little bit of an increase there. Really, that's about it on the revenue side. Again, what we're looking at is a cut of about $20,000. It's a 1.08% decrease. Our total revenue is slated to be $1,754,746. Next item then is going to be the expenditures. And again, we have a handy pie chart. Now this one is for every $100 of that revenue that we have, here's how we spend it. And this is a little bit more balanced. On public safety, which is police, fire, ambulance, building inspector falls under public safety. We're looking at $26.68. Our general government, which is administration, our operations of our administrative building, attorney, looking at $16.64. General public works, $16.07. Leisure and education, which is our park rec and the library, $14.19. The amount that we send into our capital expenditure fund, so we transfer it to that fund, $13.40. Debt service, for every $100 that we have, our debt is $12.36. Other general expenses, 65 cents, and then health and social services is 1 penny. That being said, then we go to the expenditures. The changes in the general government relate to the amount that we budget for the city attorney. and it's related to municipal court. Prosecution is the heavy load there. One of the experience items we had in 2015 is the railroad prosecution. And it is my understanding that the New London Municipal Court they put out a timeline of 60 days from when the trial occurred. They still haven't made a ruling on that yet. I think we're about 45 days out from that. So in the next 2 weeks. That amount that was spent there was $36,336 to date. One of the interesting things that we have with our municipal court is the costs of prosecution. And for the last 2 years, there's been a little bit of a backlog in cases. And so up until even a month and a half ago, there were cases that were being finalized that had been opened. And so we have had roughly $45,000 to $50,000 in municipal court prosecution. That's something that we've talked with Davis and Cuthall about. And I believe at the city council level, we're probably going to have a discussion on how our municipal court is run and whether that's a sustainable cost of doing business. Because right now, the amount of money we take in is about $25,000 in citations, and it's a split because New London keeps a share because they run the joint court. We take in $25,000 and we're spending in the 40s. Again, there's a backlog of cases, so having an idea on how much is getting us up to speed. I believe that'll probably come down when it comes to regular prosecution, but for now it's been an expense. So there is an increase in attorney. There's also an increase in the operations for our city hall building, because obviously we're going to be building a building that is 3 times larger than what we had. And we'll have that from May until December. So we'll have a better idea on our true cost to run that building moving forward when we get to next year's budget. But right now, we basically doubled the amount from $13,000 to $25,000 for operations in the building. In public safety, we do have a police increase in the budget, roughly $8,000. That's 2.11%, and that relates back to operational supplies, a 2% increase in wages. And when it comes to operational supplies, it's not that we're expanding operations, it's to better align the budget with the actual costs we've had in the past. So again, that's an increase. 2 good things to report to you on are the fire district has actually cut our rate for next year, about $800 less, and so that's not an increase item. There's a little bit of relief there. And then for Gold Cross, going into 2015, Gold Cross had substantially cut our rate as part of a, I guess it's a sweeping institution of a consortium, and what they call that, what they refer to with that is they have roving paramedic units. They have one stationed here that they took out of Weyauwega. They have one in Weyauwega, one in New London, and then some in the valley. And when there are calls, they move them around. So it's not always waiting in the garage here. But with that, they basically cut our rate in half for 2015. And our rate for 2015 was $12.50. That relates out to a $23,000 cost for ambulance. So we're getting a paramedic crew with ambulance coverage, and it costs us $23,000 for the year. Gold Cross has indicated to us that they're going to cut that rate even further for next year. It's going to go down to $11.89. That ends up being about a $1,200 cut in what we pay. So we're looking at, in this budget, $22,591. It's about a cut of 5% for next year. On top of that, now again, this budget is based on the number that Gold Cross has given us. But I believe I had talked here about the town of Dale and the village of Hortonville, and how those 2 communities had been getting service but not paying for it. Essentially, Gold Cross, when they picked up New London Hospital, they would just pick up those communities on the way from the valley out to New London. I believe now they have approved in concept that both communities are going to start on like a graduated payment schedule. So they're probably starting like in the $6.25 range for next year that they're going to be paying. And then by 2017, they're going to get up to the full amount like the rest of us. And I believe it was last year Gold Cross had said to us, as these other communities get on, there's the potential to drop our rate even further. And right now, the number that was tossed out to me not for budget purposes, but I was told, don't be surprised if $11.89 turns into $11 by the first of the year. If that's the case, then we're looking at probably another, and I don't, I'm gonna get checked because this is online, but probably another $1,300 savings. There's a couple things there. One is it's an amount that's budget friendly, just about $20,000 for paramedic service. The other thing there is that it's an amount that doesn't allow for a lot of competition. So, and I should make a clarifying comment too. At the last meeting, I made the comment that there's an average response time in the city of 15 minutes. I should clarify that. It's actually closer to 7 or 8 for Gold Cross. Now, the 7 or 8 is when Gold Cross gets the call from Weyauwega County. And then when Gold Cross responds, they're looking at 7, 8 minutes. After that meeting, I believe we did have 3 calls where it was reported that there was response times in the 15-minute range. So there are calls there. At that last meeting, I also said that whenever we have issues like that, we do contact Gold Cross, and we do. So with that, those are good things in public safety. Essentially, our costs are going down, and that's always a good thing when our costs are going down. The building inspector is also in public safety. The building inspector is a tax neutral item. And what that means is we get permit revenue, and he gets a cut of the permit revenue. And so people pay their application fees. Before that money goes into our accounts, it gets paid out to him. So it's sort of, like I said, tax neutral. We get down to public works, there's 2 big changes. One of them will be an increase at the yard waste site, because what we're finding is keeping that open 24 hours a day means that more stuff gets dropped. More stuff means that there's more effort to dispose of or move that around. But that's offset by harders in recycling. We had budgeted this time last year based on the most expensive recycling option, which would have been bi-weekly recycling. And you'll remember that the garbage discussion, we collected quotes in August, we had them in hand for the budget. Didn't actually make a decision until February or maybe March. And you decided to go monthly based on the citizen survey's response. And so we had budgeted $25,000 for recycling. The quote for harders was closer to, I believe it was 18,000 or 19,000. And now, I think as we talked about up until last month, harders is now proposing to up to bi-weekly pickup with recyclables, which starts tomorrow. And so with that, they said they weren't going to charge us any extra for bi-weekly. And the difference there is essentially $6,000, because a year ago they told you that they would do bi-weekly pickup for $25,000. Right now, they're telling us they will do it, and they're going to do it for $19,000. So the increase in yard waste site is $5,000. The decrease in recycling is $6,000. Again, these are just the highlights we're running through. The leisure activities, education, essentially we're keeping everything steady. Frank did report tonight on the library. The library was able to keep the city portion flat for the 2nd straight year. Last year we had asked them to do that. This year we did not specifically tell them to do that, but with the changes that are being proposed to health insurance, they have enough of a savings that they can afford to do it. And so they're keeping the city's share the same. And I believe it's Weyauwega County. I've got Weyauwega County in the narrative. I apologize on that, but it's Weyauwega County that's kicking in the additional, like $700, I think. So the increase in the library budget is being paid for by Weyauwega County. Our amount is staying the same. And then when it comes to celebrations and entertainment, the $700 that Mr. Bayman had talked about is a number that's baked into that line item. Fireworks, $5,000. Music at the fireworks we put in there, that's been $300 to $400. We also put in the cost of that garland that goes up in the wintertime, which is $1,200. And every year the city has paid $1,200. We put it up. It turns brown at the end of the year if you don't get it down in time, and then we throw it away. It's got a wire in it, so we have to get rid of it a certain way. If you don't get it down in time, that brown doesn't look real good. One of the things that I reported to the rec committee was that we've actually purchased Happy Holidays banners which this time of the year, usually we take the flags down, we take the silo welcome banners down. The banners we're getting a dozen of them at 50 bucks a piece. So it's not 1,200, we're paying 600. They'll slide right onto the poles, and then we'll have them going forward. So the cut of $1,000 in celebrations and entertainment is related to the amount we pick up immediately next year, because we're not gonna have to pay for that garland or get rid of the garland. And if we need to buy a couple more banners, we can do that.
How about buying some more flags over the bridge?
That number's in there too. That would be
Okay.
in there too, yeah. And we do have a cycle where we rotate flags in and out. So,
Very
you know,
good.
one of the things you could look at is maybe we look at more flags, replacing more flags than we normally would, because we would have relief there with cutting the budget. I should back up a little bit now. The fire on ice amount has come out of there, but we've always had a vote in December on that, because typically what you do is you give $700, but you're buying a full-page ad in the paper. They have a note, usually that they throw the mayor's name on the down. It's like a welcome to the city. And it goes in their big brochure. So there is money for that. It's something that we do though pull out in December and usually vote on. Other than that, when we get down to other general expenses, we are keeping the citizen survey in there. The thought is that because we've been fairly busy, that's a lot of staff work to get that done. So we haven't gotten it done yet for this year, but we're looking at probably the winter months or maybe early spring. And with that, then it's a different time of year that we get it out there too. Sometimes you'll find different responses on snow removal when you're not asking it in summer and you're asking it in the winter. Sometimes you'll get different responses on summertime stuff when you ask in the winter too. But we are looking to do that, and there's money that is set aside in there. And then we do also have actually we moved it back to general expenses, the tuition and training reimbursement. We have $1,000 in there. The plan that we approved 2 years ago was that employees, if they wanted to go out and do like a leadership class and if they paid for it on their own, there's a $500 reimbursement according to eligible training. Through that line item, we also do pay for, or in that line of thinking, we've paid for people to attend Leadership Weyauwega. And I think this year we have three or four? Three attending. So that's been something that we maintain too. It's a good thing. Getting down then to the transfer to capital improvements, one of the goals that I have is when we talk about the CIP in December, we also talk about more closely aligning the budgeted funds we have for that. As it relates to the general fund budget, what we've had is a transfer out. And we're looking at reducing that for 2016 down to $235,000. What we've done in the past really is we wait till the end of the year and you see what you spent and how much is left, and then we send that into the capital fund. Right now, we're slated to put $235,000 into that fund. I'm not too concerned about it being reduced to this level, because we do have a couple of land sales that are planned. That could be a one-time fill to make sure that we have enough money going into the capital fund. But that being said, a one-time fix really would be slated to be a one-time fix. You know, we're not gonna be able to have land and then sell it for anywhere near $100,000 or more every year, so. And then when it gets to general debt service, we have an increase of 6.29%, and basically that's an increase in our principal. It's a decrease in interest. We do have a couple of loans that come off in 2017. Really, the way those are tiered is your principal payments are lower at the beginning, your interest is higher, and then your principal rises at the end. So we're at the highest level with a couple of those loans. But when it comes to 2017, those will clear off the books. So that's a good thing. And again, we get to a total general fund expense of $1.754 million. The orange is on the capital improvement fund because in my best estimation, if you decide back on those three options that you would like to cut $4,500 out of the budget, that's an area that I believe I would like you to focus on, if that's your pleasure, and we'll come back to that again. The next page then is just going to be our debt payment schedule, so you get an idea of our 2003 general obligation bonding, 2010 general obligation. You get the principal, the interest, our sewer revenue bond, our water revenue bond. Basically shows you how much we're paying. Now this debt payment schedule shows all of water, all of sewer, all of TID, all of the general fund, so it looks a little bit higher. Essentially, we're paying $666,000 in debt, but again, it's across water, sewer, the tax levy. Next page is just the detail of the police budget, which again had been approved by the committee, or recommended for approval by the committee. Not a lot of big changes. Anything you want to add on that at all?
No, the biggest change would be, we've been talking about in the committee, is trying to break out and account for actual costs. So we created the memberships for Spillman. And for training, we broke out training to the actual cost of the training, lodges, meals, and mileage, if any. And we'll continue to do that as they come up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't touch on that, but if you look back at 2013, 2014, 2015, at the bottom of that sheet, you'll see meals, mileage, lodging, and training. And you'll see that we've been tracking actual expenses. So when somebody goes to training, usually they have mileage if they take their own car. They will have a hotel if it's over a certain distance away, and then meals too if they're not paid for by the training. In the past, the city's just had a $5,000 amount in training. This now is going to break that out better to track our actual expenses, still related to training, but it's going to break them back out, and it's budget neutral because we're just redirecting that $5,000 to the costs that make up $5,000. The next item, and the last item in this packet, before we get back to the tax rate discussion, is going to be the Resolution 575, which is your next item after this review here. And essentially what you do then is you pass a resolution that says we have estimated expenditures of $1.754 million. Here's when we've had the notice, here's when we've had the meetings, here's when we've had the budget hearing. And then also you would approve or adopt the budget and then authorize a tax levy to offset your expenses. And that, like I said, what we have in there is $754,626. Any questions before we get back to the tax rate discussion? Is there anything brand new in there that popped up that we hadn't talked about at any committee at all? If not, that's a good thing, like I said.
Do you try to earmark a specific dollar amount in capital improvement fund?
The way we have had...
How was that ever determined to begin with?
There's a couple things that you look at. What you see here is half of the formula. So you're looking at out of the general levy, the general amount with state shared aids and taxes, how much of that are we setting aside for capital improvements? Up until about 5 years ago, you also had a follow-up fund or a breakdown that said, okay, all these items, and I hate to, it's right in the middle of the packet, but on that expense sheet with the green highlight, right down at the bottom, you'll see a big white area. But the white area says City Hall, street machinery, garages and sheds, park and rec, capital equipment, police, fire, library, street lighting, all the items that would make up capital improvements. You used to break out the capital expenditure fund and have $200,000 in City Hall, $50,000 for police squad car. You know, you had all that money there.
What we used to do is,
Yeah.
if we knew there's a squad car coming up in 3 years, and we'd go by the cost of the last squad car, say, okay, 40,000 or whatever. So we would split that up year by year and say, okay, in order to pay for this when it's due, we want to set so much money aside each year for it.
And then there would be a number in
There would be a
here
number in there.
for
So
each
we would, like,
year.
at road projects, we would look at everything we were, in our 5 and 10 year plans and what we planned on doing in the city. And we would plan accordingly.
Yeah. So what you have right now is, we still do the capital improvement plan for 10 years. We still set out when it's our wish list. I don't want to say wish list because that implies it's a want list. But there's some things that are on there that aren't as necessary right away. We put a lot of needs out there. We put City Hall, certain streets we'll lay out. Usually what you do is you try to get your capital fund which is the bucket where this money goes to, you try to get that to line up, like I said, so you have so much in City Hall or so much here and there. So then, when you have your capital improvement, you can look back and say, okay, how much do we have for City Hall? Strictly designated for City Hall. The problem we have is when the white started on this sheet, that's the point where the city reverted to just having, I don't want to see this quote in the paper, but just a pot of money, and as projects come up, you just dip into the pot and start taking out. Now that infers something that's not on the up and up. It's a way to do it, but the problem for the police chief and myself is, in a way, we have a 10-year plan on when we're going to spend the money, but we don't have a capital budget that lines up and says, okay, when your item comes up on that list of needs and wants, you're gonna have to come back and wonder whether or not there's money in there. Now, there's money in the pot, but it could go towards other things. And I will tell you an example of, in my tenure here, how this has worked. And it has to do with the trails and the trails grant that we had. I don't mean to pick up any old hard feelings or anything like that, but essentially, in the capital improvement plan, we had a number for trails, to spend on trails. But with the capital fund budget, we didn't have the money set there, you know, that said, okay, well, when it comes time to do the trail, that money is restricted just to trails. What we had was a pot of money, and then the decision had to be made, do you want to do this project or not? And the decision at the time was no. So you had the money in a pot. The no wasn't, we don't have any money, because the city had money. But the problem is, it wasn't restricted to that. Now, having it the way you have it for the last, I want to say maybe 5 years, gives you the flexibility to say no to things. And you always have the ability to say no, but the funds don't track as well. Essentially, we're looking at, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's roughly $950,000 that's been in that fund. Now, as we do these big construction projects with Alfred Street and County F and with City Hall, we draw a lot out of that. We also replenish it by this transfer that we put into the fund. So, in a way, the way we come up with this is we try, or I've tried to say, let's try to be about $250,000 to $300,000 that we're putting into that. Because the more money you put into it, the less you have to borrow.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, we have, when you're looking at $900,000 to $950,000 in a fund to do things, that means you have money to do things. Does that help?
Oh, yeah.
So, reducing that number is not a great thing, but like I said, you have an ability where we can absorb it if you want to. It makes things tougher because you don't want to make a habit of dropping this number. Usually what happens is when you start cutting things out of a budget, it's twice as hard to put it back in the budget as it is to take it out. And I think, you follow me when I say that? Okay. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the book? Okay, maybe then we'll go back. Like I said, we do have a closed session on the insurance, the wages, so there'll probably be a vote after. But you can vote on this budget and on the resolution now, because I believe the budget is built on where we want to go based on your review the last 2 months at committee. But that being said, if you want to go back to the tax rate discussion, and I won't go through the whole thing again, but essentially, we don't have a whole lot of control on the value of the city. The value is going to be the value, it's a number that's given to us, so that's one part of the formula. We cannot just decide to raise taxes in however much the amount is. We can't just do that. The state gives you a levy limit that says, here's how much you can raise. The budget has been put together based on the state telling us, here's how much you can raise for next year. Like I said, the ability you have, there's two things. One ability is that 4,700 we cut last year. You can continue that and cut 4,500, to try to keep the tax rate the same, that's an option. You can levy the amount that the state's allowing, and the increase would be 5 cents. Or you can levy the amount the state allows, and you can reach back 1 year to levy $4,700. Did I frame that well enough for you? You have three options, and like I said, the number that's been put in the budget is the state telling us, within levy limits, here's what you can raise. That's what's in here, but you have options. Okay? I'll leave that with you guys.
I think you should make mention, for the record, what a feat it is to hold your taxes at the same rate for a 4-year period. That in itself is quite a feat to do.
Pretty quiet.
So at this point, what's everybody's thoughts? I personally am, I guess, looking at option B. I think the way that the budget's laid out, with all the inputs from the committees, is well thought out, well put together. If we were to choose C, I think that's a little more jump than I'd like to make in one given year if we have that option, so that's why I'm not so much for that. And option A, I guess, one of the reasons why I'm against that is that then we're setting the precedent and bringing down that capital fund, which is not the right way to go about it. And that's why I'm for option B, which would be a, 5 cents on a 5 cent increase on 1,000?
It's the mill rate refers to, it's 5 cents. So what we would have is $8.21 is what's charged per $1,000 of value.
Okay.
And then what they do then is they take the mill rate, and then usually you equate it to a $100,000 home, because that's something that you can get your head around, and basically you're just taking that mill rate times $100. So the amount of tax would be, the last 4 years has been $816, is what the city portion is for a $100,000 home. A 5 cent increase would be a $5 increase then. So instead of $816, you're looking at $821 on a $100,000 home.
Okay, let me ask you, will this reach back be available every year going forward on option C?
As long as the state allows you to do it.
But so it's up to their discretion whether or not you can capitalize on that at
They've
their
had-
discretion?
The 1 year's been something that's been around for a little while, so you've had the ability to do that. One of the things that they do have now on the levy limit worksheet is if you don't take, so that $4,700 now, they're gonna give you the ability for the next 5 years to be able to reach back, and I think it's like roughly 1/5 is what you can take every year. So like this year, if you decided you wanted to have some of that, you could raise $900. I didn't put that into the discussion here because the discussion, I think, is maintain the tax rate, leave it where the state allows, or go back to the $4,700. Now, the other option would be you can maintain it and then take $900 from last year if you wanted, but I think we'll keep it at these three options if that makes sense. It's a little bit more easy to wrap your head around.
I kind of have to side with Keith. Nobody wants to raise taxes, obviously, but to keep taking from the CIP fund means that when there's projects, you'll be borrowing money, which will be at a higher interest rate. As much as you hate to raise taxes,
Right.
it's better, I feel. I don't think we can continue to rob that fund. We need to maintain our roads, we need to maintain stuff, do our PMs.
Agree. Anyone else have any further discussion?
What are you looking for? Are you looking for a motion to pick one of these, or
Yeah, I think what you probably wanna do is make a motion on one of these options, and you can just make a regular motion.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is, your next item after you review the budget then, actually, you wanna make a motion on this, you wanna make a motion to
Just make-
approve the general fund budget, vote on that, and then what you do is then you'll take that resolution up, and the resolution, whatever amount you approve for levying and for in total, you plug that in the resolution, and then you vote on the resolution then. And the resolution is pre-populated just like the budget is for option B.
Can we just bypass it and go right to the resolution?
No, you just can't bypass stuff.
Why not? It's already, the numbers are there.
You have steps you have to take.
Yeah.
It's,
So I'll make a motion then to approve option B and the city's budget as it is laid out in the packet. Does that work?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to approve option B on the tax levy amount. Any more questions on it?
See how that works, and then we'll look at C for next year if need be, correct? Because that option will be available next year as well,
It will
is my
be,
understanding.
next year
It'd be slightly
would be
different.
like the $900 amount, so
Right.
you could look back 5 years,
Okay,
and you could look back, whatever that formula is, I don't have it off the top of my
Okay.
head, but you could pick up like year 2, you could pick up a portion of that amount if you needed to.
I guess I would never want to do that. Because if we told the people we were gonna hold the taxes level through those years, then I wouldn't want to go back and say, yeah, you know what? We lied. We're gonna take it anyway. So I personally, I just think whatever a former council decided, I would abide by their decision.
I guess my thing too is I just don't want any significant jumps. I'd like to try and keep
Right.
the impact as little as
Right.
possible.
But I might feel different next year.
Yeah, one thing to note on that too is lowering it by $4,700 last year sets your amount $4,700 lower, and from year to year, you can only raise that amount. So
Right.
technically, that $4,700
yeah.
means that this year we're $4,700 lower, and
Right.
next year we're $4,700 lower, and it keeps that way, but,
Right.
you know, we make it work. It's okay, that's just a fact of what happened, but again, that was, you were able to maintain the taxes for the 4th year in a row too. So there's
Right.
value to that too.
Yes, there is.
So you'd be looking at 9,000 if you took option A this year. You'd drop 47.
And then we would be
Another-
$9,200 below, you know, the
Right.
state gives you a limit and says you can levy this, you'd be cutting
Okay.
even lower than that. Again, it's an option, it's okay, but it's
And we're
the
still
effect,
less than
I
the
guess.
county.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Motion been made and seconded to take option B. Roll call?
Kemp,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Appleby,
Aye.
Nadowski,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Gunderson.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
So now,
You wanna
this
take a
one's-
vote on, did you include the budget itself in that
I
motion
did the
then?
budget in my
Yes.
motion, yes.
Option B and the budget.
And the
Yes.
budget.
The
As
budget
laid
was
out in
option
the
B
packet.
essentially, okay.
Yes.
Then what we would probably move to then would be the resolution, and the resolution as it's presented includes option B.
Okay.
So again, it would be the
Does it just
expenditure amount.
have to be for the resolution, or do we actually have to read this?
No.
You have to read it.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution 575, adoption of the 2016 budget and waive the reading.
There you go. You
I'll
can do
second.
that. You can do that.
Oh, Mike's on his game.
Alright,
That's good.
so we got a motion and a second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 575. Roll call.
Gunderson,
Aye.
Nadowski.
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Appleby,
Aye.
Kemp,
Aye.
Brunner.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That was well worded, Mike. That was very well worded.
I would have made him read it.
All right.
You
Such as other matters by law. Nothing else coming up that anybody knows of? Set the meeting calendar for December.
One quick item, what we talked about at finance was because Cedar is working on City Hall and the treatment plant, even though we talked about not having joint meetings, I'm not advocating for joint meetings, but what we did talk about was to have Thad or Cedar at both meetings, potentially having both of them, finance and public works, the same night through May, or through the next council, I guess, and then the next council can decide. But at least that way Thad ends up at both meetings. We're billed on how much, in a way, how much they come out here to talk to us and report to us. If you can knock it out in one trip, that helps too. And I think with finance and public works, they're both slated to be public works first and then finance the second Monday of the month. We chose the second Monday because the pay request schedule, what they come in from Myron, is geared for that second Monday. So if you tried to move them up to the first, you'd be telling Myron to get their paperwork in quicker, which, might, by contract, it's probably not fair. But this way, what we talked about was trying to get finance public work the same night through May, if we could.
Yep. I think we're all in agreement there.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have the list of?
Right now, we only have Public Works and Finance set, both of them December 14th. Public Works at 5:30, Finance at 6:30. And then City Council normally is scheduled for the third Monday, which would then be December 21st, 6:30. So no other committee said anything as far as I know.
Just a quick note, I'd like to get a public property meeting probably sooner in December than later if we could.
Rec. What do you,
Keep it same, second Tuesday, it'd be the 8th. Do rec, then police on the 8th.
Is there gonna be a rec meeting?
Yeah, he said put them both.
So public property and what?
rec,
I know, the rec and
recreation,
police.
police.
Oh, rec and.
I don't know about public property, I'm not
December
on that one.
December 8th.
Alright,
Rec first, police.
starting at 6.
Yes.
Police 6:30.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Public property.
What's
Public
open?
property?
Yeah, what do we got open for public property?
Whatever.
Monday, Tuesday? Doesn't matter to me either. I just like it to be at 5:30. Anyone else have any opinions on that?
The last one was scheduled for a Wednesday. We had them on the second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday would be December 1st.
December 8th.
Second Tuesday is December 8th.
Kids, so.
December 1st is the first Tuesday.
That one's
I mean,
kinda-
December 1st.
That one's moved
Yeah.
because it's been on a Monday night too, so not set for any specific day.
And then the only
Yeah,
other, the
December
other
1st
note
is
is
Tuesday.
the fire department has that thing,
That's the 7th.
December 7th.
Sorry.
Oh,
It's a note for you guys, I don't know. I mean, we don't,
Well, we need to have an ordinance meeting too, because we're
Mhm.
working on timeline stuff. So
Mhm.
could we do public property and ordinance on December 9th, which would be the Wednesday right after, the rec and police and fire? Does that work for everybody?
yeah.
Will just be the last one? Or is that the only thing on Wednesday?
Wednesday'd be property and ordinance, she's saying.
Oh, okay.
So I would imagine property first, because that'll go a lot faster.
Yeah, ordinance is gonna be more of a discussion, so take a little time.
Plus
And you said you would like prefer 5:30?
I would.
That's fine with me.
We do
Okay,
5:30
good
and
enough.
6 then?
Mhm.
5:30, 6.
Immediately
Yeah,
after.
Should work.
do 6
Or,
for
yeah,
ordinance
immediately
or-
after. Okay.
I can't guarantee that one then. At 5:30, I can't guarantee public property. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, well,
Would 6 o'clock work better for you?
5:30 is early, I know. I can't make
Yeah.
it in at 5:30.
didn't make it 6.
6 I could probably, yeah.
Then that's fine too, then we can accommodate them.
You can't make it, you're retired.
I know.
You retire and then you work more.
Looked it up on my fucking Waggles.
So 6 o'clock,
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
ordinance
Just
to
follow.
follow.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Got them all?
Yeah, there'll be a plan commission meeting, but because it's citizen heavy, we'll have to coordinate that.
Okay.
At least one conditional use permit coming through, so.
All right. Anything else? Well, we'll move into closed session.
I'll make a motion. We move into closed session.
I'll second.
Motion made, and seconded to go into closed session pursuant to
Yeah.
1980.
the whole thing there.
Yeah. The reason for the closed session is to
Sorry about
review wages, health insurance, and the 2016 budget, community operations supervisor position. The committee may choose to reconvene the open session at the completion of the closed session. And there will also be another closed session, and the reason for that closed session is to discuss the general contractor claim relating to municipal building project construction, and the council may choose to reconvene to open session at the completion of the closed session in order to take action on the items from closed session.
All in favor, say aye.
Now you need a roll call.
We need
Roll
roll call.
You have a motion in a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was talking to the media, I'm sorry.
Nadowski,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Kemp,
Aye.
Appleby,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Gunderson.
Aye.
I almost said
8:21. Okay, we're back in open session. 9:53. And there are probably three motions coming. One on the operations supervisor position, one on wages, one on health insurance changes.
Which way would you like to them to be? The way you set them, or?
You can do that, either way is fine.
Mike, you can kick it?
Can you remember what you said? Go ahead.
Yep. I will make a motion to hire Don Anzia. I'll make the offer to Don Anzia, the operations supervisor position. And 52,000.
I'll second it.
That was next.
Yep.
Any discussion on it? Think we've got enough. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next one is for the raises.
Wages, I'll make a motion to approve a 0% increase to the base salary for the public works and a 2% increase to the police department and a 2% increase to the general administration staff.
Or just in general employees.
General
employees.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank
second that.
I thought I was pretty close too.
You were.
That was good.
Motion made and seconded to approve the salary or the wage raises at 2%. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, I'd also like to make a motion to approve the proposed 2016 healthcare insurance changes as detailed in a report. Do we need anything else added to that?
No, but if you get a second, I'll just run it down real quick, so that we've got it
I'll
on
second it.
open, okay. Yep, so-
Motion made and seconded to approve the insurance policies for this year.
Yep, so again, so now these modifications on your sheet are the employee contribution raises from 10% to 12%. The city contribution reduces from 90% to 88%. The deductibles will automatically rise per IRS requirements. Single, $1,300. Family, $2,600. The city will then fund to a health savings account for each employee It was 1,250 for single, it was 2,500 for family. It will now, in 2016, according to this motion, be $1,000 to single, $2,000 to family. So again, the deductibles are 1,300, 2,600. And then the amount that is paid to employees who do not take the insurance will still stay with the family share of the HSA. So it was 2,500, it will now be 2,000. Those are the proposed modifications.
Okay, motion been made, and seconded. No comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I believe that's all you have on the agenda.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Sure, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded to adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
9:58.